Hello everyone, hi, how's it going? Hi 404, hi, welcome to the stream. It's a pretty chill stream today, not much going on. We're just gonna go over some pretty fundamentals of Unix and Vim. I have also dropped the check-in link into the chat for today. But yeah, it should be a fun day today, nothing too serious. And if you already know a lot of this stuff, feel free to just follow along. But yeah, so this really works with any system. The whole point of the stream, how long does it take to open a browser? What does this mean? This is funny. I don't even know what this necessarily means. But so I am Kevin, or Kev. I am a coach with Major League Hacking, preferably Kev. Hello, how's it going? It's a pretty chill stream. We're just gonna be messing around and going some basics. It's a lot of fundamental stuff. Most people got it already. So we're gonna open up a terminal real quick. So, and then I am going to blow stuff up so it's actually readable. Oops. There we go. Okay, cool. So the whole point of this is really to teach you the fundamentals so you would really utilize a Unix shell and navigate your way around a system. Because remember, what you see in front of you generally is just a graphical version, and you can do a lot of the same thing, actually, sometimes a lot more through a command line interface, also known as CLI. And CLIs is what you would get if you, let's say, are trying to remote into a server. Generally, you don't generally get greeted with a really nice graphical user interface, but you get greeted with something like a CLI. And the point of this is to teach you the basic fundamentals of how a CLI works. And this could be done through a lot of different ways. What's up? You do not. So any shell works. So a lot of Unix shells are pretty similar, and there's a lot of different shells. But today we're going to be using as a bash shell. You can have any type of software works. You can also get a replit, and then you can also access the bash shell through a replit. When we usually do this stream, I usually do it on a replit, and everyone can follow along. But today I did boot up Ubuntu. So it's a bit easier because that's already a Linux shell. But actually, I will get a copy of the replit going. Replit. Let's see. So if you just go to replit.com, I will put in all WSL also works. Just anything that has essentially a Linux shell works. You can also go to Replit, and when you create a project, they actually give you a shell to work with. We're really just being some basics. The reason I brought it up in Ubuntu is another thing we're going to cover is Vim. And Vim might not be installed on the thing you're on. You can then go ahead and install it. So I'm actually going to do that as we wait. Sudo apt install Vim real quick. So when we get to that portion, it will be taken care of. Enter my password. Yes, please install Vim. But yeah. Yes, WSL stands for Windows Subsystem Linux. It allows you to have a really compartmentalized Linux in your Windows computer. Because there's some tools that really just works on a Linux environment. But yeah. So with that being said, let's take a look at what we're gonna do today. Okay, cool. Wait, what do I do? You just have to go into your advanced settings. So if you hit your like Windows key and just type in, I think it's like features, just type in features actually. It says turn on Windows features or turn Windows feature on or off. Really? Then they might have messed up the date. Let me check. But as I do this checking, you can look up features if you're on a Windows computer. And turn on off feature, and there's one thing that should say WSL. Yeah, because they messed up the time. According to this is the current 8 p.m. EST. But on the schedule, it's supposed to be at 10 p.m. EST. Let me see if I can get that resolved. Like 1 second, I'm working on that. Don't worry about that. I'll get that taken care of and have everyone who's on the stream taken care of. So I think it's 8:38 IST. I know, but the times are in EST, unfortunately. So I guess it's an internal mess up, but that's okay. Oops, I cannot type. But yeah. Okay. So first thing first, we're gonna go over some Unix stuff. So this presentation will really cover the basics of Unix and Linux commands. In any type of environment where you are greeted with a command line interface instead of your basic chat. So I'm just gonna hide this for now. Okay, and generally how you would access a system like this or a remote system would be, let's say you can use a terminal, you would use something like PuTTY, maybe PowerShell. If you're a Mac or Linux, you can generally use a terminal. And when you hit, let's say, a server that only gives you a command line interface, you would be greeted like a screen like this, right? So it would have a login thing. So you generally do like SSH, and you put a user at wherever the server is located, server address, dot whatever, right? And then you will log in and you would just get greeted with something that looks identical to this. This is also known as a bash shell. So we're going to cover some really basic things. As first things first, understand what you're looking at. So this whole thing is called the command line. The blanking box is called the cursor. And this whole window that I can actually make it smaller and bigger is called the terminal window. And this is currently used as the terminating line. It is what tells you this is everything before is information that's auto-populated. Your command line starts at the blinking light after this terminating $sign. And whenever you are done typing something, for example, I can just do echo. Echo is a command that will repeat what I type, right? So I'm going to say echo hello. It will repeat hello, and as soon as you're done, you hit enter. The command line will accept that command, and it will generate any sort of output it needs. It will complete anything else it needs. But a really cool thing is you can always do who am I? And also tell you what user you're currently on that computer. So you can try that. It's a pretty simple command. But yeah. Okay, next thing we're gonna go over real quick is something called the file system. So within like your computer, when you open, let's say, your File Explorer, or I think on Mac it's called like, what's it called on Mac? I can't remember. So like on Windows, you have it. It's called your File Explorer. On any sort of Unix or Linux, it's generally called Files. I think on Mac it's called Finder. But essentially, that is a graphical representation of a file system, which you can also get on your Linux machine. So the command line you would use to, let's say, look at your file system is called ls, which stands for, I need to think, ls. I think it's list system, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember exact what these stand for half time. But ls will list currently where your file system you're in. And there's something called, that's what we call command, right? So ls is the command. And with each command, what we tie to it is something called flags. So to set a flag, you just do a minus, right? And with the minus, you give it different type of parameters to get a flag, right? So if I do ls-l, it's saying run the ls command with the long flag. The long flag generally provides more details, right? So you can see that there's more details provided on the screen than when I just ran ls. Another thing, another really common flag is -a, which means list system -all. This includes your hidden files. Generally, on a lot of systems, including your Windows, there are files that are hidden. For actual Linux or Unix computer system, the hidden file is designated with a dot generally. So you can see anything that had a dot something is a hidden file. But on your Windows, you can actually right-click on your File Explorer and hit Show Hidden Files, and they're just kind of grayed out a bit more than your regular files. And that's how you can tell if something is hidden. Oh, you're right. We can do that. So man is a command. Let's actually back out real quick. So it's this Q to quit. So man is a command. It stands for manual, and you can always run man on any. If it's installed and there's been man written for it, you can run on generally any command. I'll tell you more about it, right? So for man ls, it stands for list directory. I'm pretty sure it's like list system is what ls actually stands for, but what it does is list directory. And you can see all the flags it allows, right? So -a means all, -A means almost all, but do not list implied dots. So like and dot. So dot essentially is saying your current directory, dot is your directory before. We'll go over a bit of that. But as you can see, there's a lot of different things you can do, and they're really powerful because you can really do a lot of these commands once you learn how each of these flag works. So I'm actually going to do it clear. I'm going to do ls again. As you can see, ls listed my directory. And what we're going to go over is the multiple file structures within a computer, right? So you have something called a file, which is generally a collection of data, right? So this could be, let's say, plain text. It could be input, output. It could be a program, executable. It could be an image, and a lot more, right? So example would be, so I'm actually going to move into documents. I don't think. So I'm going to move in there. You don't have to worry about these commands. We're going to go over that in a second. I'm going to move into documents, and I'm going to do ls. There's nothing in here, so I'm going to go over some of this later, but I'm going to make something real quick. txt. So if I do, I'm going to clear that. I'm going to pretend like I was always here. So if I do ls, you can see in white. Generally, a lot of system, when you're on bash, they already have it color coded. So generally, if you see anything with extension, this would be an example of a file. A file is a collection of data, right? So a text document is a type of file. And then what we have before that is something called a directory. A directory is a logical structure that helps organize files. So you can think of them like folders, right? And generally know them as folders. So for example, if I do ls, anything in blue is a directory, right? And you can usually tell by if you do, let's say, I think it's ls. Actually, I'm going to man it real quick. There's a flag that tells it, oops, man ls. So you can always open the manual and look for, let's say, a flag, right? I think it's like dash. Dash out before you max style mode, no. Store enable all, no. I'm not gonna do that. I don't want to do that. Group directories first. You can do that. That's pretty cool. So you can like go through all this and tells you a lot of flags you can set and stuff. I'm looking for one specifically actually, but let's see. Oh, it's -p. So I'm gonna exit. No, it's not -ls-l. I know ls-l. I mean ls-l-p. This will add a slash after your directory. So if you're ever trying to tell, and somehow it's not already color coded, you saw that earlier. There is actually a /color, color equals auto, right? This will automatically add the color, but the system already has color already enabled within ls. So ls has been bound it to run that automatically. I'm going to do ls-lp. So if you ever wonder if it's a directory or a file, as long as you do ls-lp, you can enter. Any directory will end with a slash, showing that there's something else within it, right? So I'm going to move back into my documents, and I'll go over some of that later. And if I do the ls-lp, which is using the ls command with flags long, and I don't remember what p stands for, but you can see that nothing shows up. So now we know what a file is and what a directory is. So we're actually going to really quickly go over what a file system is. A file system is just a collection of files and directories. So this whole entire thing we're operating with is called a file system. In every computer, there is a file system that includes all your files and all your directories. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can bring this on screen. Oopsie daisies. Okay, do not mind this. So this, I'm gonna make this bigger and zoom in. This is the example of a file system, right? So you have your base directory, and then this is your actual file system. Inside the file system, you have your different type of directory, also known as folders. Inside the different folders, you can have more folders or you can have files, right? And this just goes on and on, then you continue linking. And this is the example of a file system. So now we know what a file is, what a directory is, and what a file system is. As a user, you always have something called the home directory, which is the directory you log into, and this is where everything there is kind of owned by your account, right? So I'm gonna do a cd is the next command we're gonna learn. Cd stands for change directory. So if I just do cd by itself, it takes me to my home directory. So if I do ls, this is everything that's owned by my user. So we can also do a man cd. There's no man entries for cd. That's kind of sad. But cd stands for change directory, and we're going to go over all the different ways of using cd in a second. But if you just type cd by itself, it takes you to what we call your home directory, which means your account owns everything in this directory. And generally is where you have most of your permissions, privileges, and power. So with that being said, what you can do is you can think of the file system as a tree, right? Instead of the branches, there are directories under each tree, right? So you have your root, and then with the trees, you have the base, I don't know what we call it, not the log, but like, you know what, if you cut it down, what makes the log of the tree? So the base of the tree is your file system. And on the top, you have all sort of branches, and those are your directories. And inside each directory, you have files, which is kind of like your leaves, right? So a branch can have multiple leaves, and a tree can have multiple branches. That's kind of how you can visualize a file system. And remember that there is what we call the root. The root in a Unix system is essentially, hello, welcome. Oh, yeah. Okay, we can run that. Tree is a command, not installed here. But if you're on your Windows, there's tree installed by default. There's some Linux that does have tree installed by default. So if you run tree, what it does, it kind of like visualizes your whole file system in terms of a tree. I might actually sudo apt install tree. I'm gonna do that real quick. We can look at the tree command. It's a pretty cool one. It's also a one that hackers use a lot to try to confuse people, right? So you can see this is a tree representation of my home directory. You can see that it says this is the start of my home directory. It shows you all my directories, all my files within each directory, and then just and boils all the way down. That's pretty cool. And then, so we can also do cd against central change directory. So if you do cd by itself, it takes you to your home directory, right? Your home directory is represented by this tilde, this squiggly line looking thing. So if you just do cd tilde, it's the same thing as doing cd, because that's what cd is defaultly bound to. But if you do cd backslash, this takes you to what we call the root directory. In a computer, this is what you can think of as the the really base of the tree, right? So after the base of the tree, once you grow up, there is like when you start a branch, that generally each user is a branch of root, and each root is the base of the tree. And then each user then have more branches, which links to their home directory, their files, and everything, right? And then you talk about the leaves and stuff. But once you're here, another really new good command is we already learned that cd / takes you to your home directory. I mean your root directory. Ooh, cd tilde takes you to your home directory. We can also do cd minus, which takes you to the directory before, and also tells you what the path is, right? So let's say if I do a cd, actually let's do ls again, right? So ls lists your file system. So I'm going to do ls-lp, which you can tell there's a lot more files here. So if I do, let's say, cd into bin, which is where all the binary files are stored, and if I do cd minus, it'll tell me that my face is blocking it. So I'm going to I totally forgot if I take off my face, you also can't hear me. It's one of the biggest struggles. Maybe I just do this. There we go. This is so odd. But yeah, if I do this, I think I can just have this running too. Okay, cool. We're just gonna use this mode. I know it's great. I hate this feature, but what I was saying was that as you can see, when you do cd minus, what it does is that it allows you swap between two of your recent directories, and it also prints out the path. So when you ever do cd minus, you know where you end up. But yeah, so another cool thing is if you do cd and you do cd ... this will take you one directory out of the current directory, right? Remember how we talked about there's multiple trees? If I actually do a cd by itself, it takes me to my home directory. If I do a tree again, you can see that there's multiple directory, right? So if I am in desktop per se, and I do a cd ... it will take me to 49. If I do a cd ... again, it'll take me to snap desktop integration. If I do cd ... it'll take me to snap. And that is a way to move around. Right. So in this file, in this tree, it tells you that there's 34 directory in 2 files. If I go, let's say cd into root, which is kind of your base of your file system. So if I cd into root, which is cd / and I do tree, it's going to be super duper long, right? Because this is everything in your computer. This is including files that make your operating system work, that does the graphics, visualization, that does every single thing. So this generally would take a second to run because now it's like dumping everything and not just for my user. But yeah, another thing that's really cool is we just learned about a few different of our cd mobility command is knowing how to figure out where you are, right? So we talk a lot about situational awareness in terms of, let's say, actually we talked about this during our cyber lecture, but it's generally knowing where you are. So if you don't know where you are, how do you can gain and learn where you are, which I'm not going to wait for this to finish running. If you do a control C and any command is running, you cancel that command mid-run. So control C is great. Your friend, especially when something goes wrong and you really need to abort, control C is aborting. But yes. So another command we're going to learn is pwd, which is path of working directory is what it stands for. So if I say I do cd, and it takes me to my home directory. If I do a pwd, what you can see is it does home /, which is also where our current working directory is. We're in the home directory under my user's home directory. Yeah, prints working directory. Oh, is that what that means? I think that's what I said, right? I can't recall. But yeah, so now let's learn the basic command structure. So we went over some command already. This is the general basic command structure. That is the Wim link. That's not what I meant to copy and paste. I meant to, if this wants to work with me, which I don't think it does actually. It should work with me, I think. Okay, there we go. If I paste now, that still didn't work with me. Okay, it just really doesn't like me. Give me 1 second. I have this written on another screen. Paste. Okay, that does not matter. So I'm just going to type it out. So general command structure, what it looks like within a terminal, is that you have something called command followed by your option flags, which we talked about. which is optional, and followed by either, let's say, a file, a directory, an object, which this command works upon, right? So this is your generally structure, and some of this is optional, right? You can totally just run command by itself. And if you want to add flags to the command to make it more verbose, to make it work better, to do something specific, you have your flags you can add, and then you have your file path, file, your directory, or object that might need to interact with as for that command. And then this is a good example. Is ls is our command. Our optional flag is, let's say, -a, and let's say -p. And then let's say for ls, you can also pass it what file you want to write. So I can do \, which then will list and do that for my actual root directory instead of directory I'm in. I told it which directory to work on. -a, yes, list all. I actually really like, I think I have my ls generally. Oops, I'm going to do that. I'm going to Control-C, abort. I generally have my ls bound to generally to include all of these flags. You can do that. So like it will show me more information about the file, who owns the file, what type of file it is, and just in case color is not automatically enabled by default, it tells you it's the directory just from the \. But yeah, so some really basic stuff we're gonna go over real quick now. We went over CD, we went over ls, we went over pwd, which shows you a print working directory. We went over man, which stands for manual, which you can do. You can man the manual, which is the funniest thing ever. You can man any command that has a manual written for it. You have who am I, which displays the current user's username. You can have mkdir, which is something new we're going to learn right now. mkdir stands for make directory, which creates a directory for you, right? So I'm going to currently do clear. I'm going to do ls, so you can see that here's all the directories that currently exist. If I do a mkdir, I'm going to call it temp. And if I do ls again, you can see now there's a new blue directory that was created called temp. Yes, make directory, mkdir. Then we have also rmdir, which then removes that directory, right? So if I do a rm and I do temp, this will get rid of temp. Oh, oops, I'm so used to, because I have my rm dash bound to dash dr, which will remove directories. But you also have also the actual command, which I'm going to clear. I'm going to redo that. So I'm going to do mkdir temp. Then I'm going to do a rmdir, which stands for remove directory temp, and this will work just fine. And you can see temp is gone. Rm stands for remove, correct. And then we have cd, which we went over change directory. With ls, which we went over lists the directory. The next we're going to go over is we're going to use cp. Cp stands for copy. Allows you to copy a file, right? So how it works is copy is your command. You pass the argument, which first thing is the file you want to copy. So in this instance, let's say I want to copy, I don't really want to see more. So I'm going to copy, let's say, my bash rc, which we don't have to worry about that. It's a configuration file used for your bash shell. And I'm going to do a cp copy bash rc. I'm going to call it, let's say, like copied. Well, actually, I'm going to use the, oh, Sia Zelfoster, that's unfortunate. I hope you get your electricity back. But yeah, I'm actually gonna follow the Google Drive convention, which kind of does like dot. I think it does like, so it just copies a name or something, and it does like, so I'm gonna do bash rc. I'm gonna do underscore copy or something. But yeah, so if I do ls, you can ls-a, because I have to show the hidden ones. Actually, I'm not gonna do. I'm just gonna do a. So like, it shows the hidden stuff. So you can see now there is a bash rc, and there's also a bash rc underscore copy. So that was the cp command, which allows you to copy a file. Your mv command is actually a really unique one, because your mv command can actually complete multiple things. So mv stands for move a file, but in the spirit of things, move apparently can also mean rename, right? So first things first is if I actually want to move a file, which let's say I want to move my copy of my bash rc. Copy. I want to move that into, let's say, my documents folder, right? It's a backup. You can do move, and then you pick the file you want to move, and then you give it the path, what directory you want to move it to. Which in this case, I'm going to move it into my documents folder. So I'm going to do ls. I'm going to also do pwd. So I'm currently in home under winter, and then I'm going to actually do a cd, which is again change directory. I'm going to move into documents. Once I'm in documents, I'm actually going to do a pwd again to show you my working path. I'm in documents now. If I do ls, I can see that, oh, ls-a. You can see that bash copy or .bashrc underscore copies moves in here. So now we're going to do the next really cool thing, which is MV. We talked about it used to move, which in those cases you provide it MV as the command. You provide the file name, the file you want to move as the first argument, and then you provide where you want to move it to, the path, as your second argument. You can also do, if you do, instead of file and path, you do file and a new file name, it also works. So if I do, let's say I'm going to first pick the file I want to rename, which in this case is bash rc copy. And let's say I want to rename it to backup bash.txt, right? I can change it, I can rename it. So now I rename it, if I do ls, you can see that I successfully rename my .bash rc underscore copy to backup bash.txt. If anyone has any questions as we're going along, feel free to stop me and we can go over that. We kind of already covered RM by mistake. RM stands for remove. It allows you to delete a file. So let's say I'm done with this backup. I don't want this backup, I just RM. And I do backup rc.txt. If I do ls now, it's gone. If I do ls-a, you can see it's no longer there either. Our next really cool thing of this trick is if you do ls, you can do something called cat. Cat stands for concatenate, which essentially helps displays a file and by concatenating all the text in that file. So if I do cat, if I do, I should not really release that. So I'm actually going to do a cd into my documents again. I'm going to change our documents. I was thinking I'm going to use gedit for right now. Hey, 404. I'm going to gedit the text document here and said, I'll show you Vim later, but this is just a gedit. It opens the graphical editing tool you have. Hi, I am doing fine. We're just doing some reminder or some basic Unix command, file directory stuff, and then some Vim stuff. Hello, welcome. We're just chilling around, doing some stuff. That reminds me, when I run streams, I like to have some music, so we will have music right now, actually. I just remember to turn it low so you can hear me. That's a whole different problem. So we're gonna start this music. And then I think this is the good volume. If I am wrong, feel free to correct me. Yeah, that's fine. If you're on Windows, you can use Replit. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Replit. So I'm gonna drop this in chat, right? We've done this stream a few times. You can use Replit. You can always use WSL. We're just really learning some of these basic commands. You can take some notes. You can use anywhere. If you have access to a remote server somewhere. So a lot of schools, if you're studying computer science, does have a server you kind of use, right? Yes, 404, I know. I can. I wish I get the rights to play any music, but I am really limited in the type of music I'm allowed to play because of copyrights and stuff. But okay, 404. That's not happening. Okay, real quick. So I'm gonna add some text into this document, right? What I'm gonna do is actually I'm just gonna. I was gonna hope I can just copy. Actually, let me see if I'm gonna copy this content. I'm gonna paste my Replit link in that. I'm gonna copy this content, which actually is my current note sheet of. So I remember the stuff I want to go over. I'm actually just gonna put Replit in here. Wait, so I gotta make my own music. Tim Kelly, yes, if you make it good enough, I will give that a consideration. I'll even upload it for other people to play. But yeah, so I'm gonna save this real quick. So we're gonna go over cat, which stands for concatenate, which is used to display a file. So if I do cat, the text file, now you can see it just concatenated all of that and then echoed it, which is printed into the terminal, which is super cool. Then next thing is these are your more advanced commands and actually are really useful. So we also learn clear, which clears your current terminal window. It doesn't clear your history, so if you go up, you can see I've done all that. But it does clear, so you can't see some of the history you ran of those commands. But here's our actually really more powerful tools that you can use. So one of them is called less. What less stands for is I actually don't know what it stands for, but less, what it does is it helps displays the content in a text file in a better viewing mode, right? So if I did cat cat text.txt, you can see that I can't see everything. I have to scroll up to be able to see everything. And if I did less, text.txt, what it does is it opens in a way that you can scroll, right? So I can click up arrow, my down arrow, and it allows me to scroll through a document to easily read it. So essentially, it's a better way to read a document. And to exit, all you gotta do is hit Q, and it quits the less command. Find is amazing. What find does is searches through a directory until it finds something, right? So if I do cd ... I would do find. I want you to find text.txt. It will say no such file and directory that's currently in here, right? So find also has a bunch of commands that allow you to find it by file name. So we're going to use our manual command. I'm going to go into find, and it says search for file or directory in the directory hierarchy. And you can do, actually we want to skip down, we want to go to options and arguments. So you can see it tells you what type of stuff to look into. If you want to do it recursively, verbosely, right? So a few of the really good ones is if I do find, I'm pretty sure if I do, oops, I did not mean to enter that again. If I do find, I want to do -r. No predicate R. Is that not a thing for this one? Maybe it's not. So if I do find, I'm gonna actually cd into documents again. So if there's a lot of things in documents, you can use find to find a file of something. So I can do find anything that's a text file, right? You can use your normal I forgot what this is called. Our normal search ability, where your normal your normal, what is it called? It's not special character, but there are special characters that as you are doing something to search. I don't think it's a regex. It could be a regular expression, but if I do a start.txt, it's essentially saying that anything before can be before .txt, but it must end in .txt. I'll bring up all my text file. To test this, I'm going to do touch. I'm going to teach you touch real quick. What touch does is the command actually creates a file. So I'm going to do touch. I'm going to do a touch temp.txt. I'm going to do touch, and then I'm going to do a few more things. So like temp2.txt. So if I now do find, and let's say I want to find all my text files, all I just got to do is put in, what is it called? It's not a mystery symbol. There's a word for it. It's but essentially, I'm saying I want to locate anything that ends in txt, and anything can be before it. So I've defined star.txt. It found all my text files. Grep is the next command we're actually going to learn. So what grep stands for is, I don't want to tell you, it doesn't. So essentially what it does is it searches for a text from a file, right? So I think I accidentally, if I do grep text.txt, right? I mean text.txt. I think I put in a v, right? No, so let's say I want to search for anything that ends in .com within text.txt, say nothing, because there's nothing that's exactly .com. I can use this special character. What's it called? There's a word for it. This it's like I can't remember the word, but what I'm saying here essentially is I'm using the grep command, which is then searches within a file. So I'm saying grep command search within the text.txt file anything that ends in .com. And it will say no because I didn't. Wait, I think I have to put quotes around it. Maybe that's what I meant to do. No, what am I messing up? Wait, am I dumb? Let me see. I'm gonna command grep real quick. Asterisk. I thought I did put asterisk. I know that's called. I know that's called an asterisk. I forgot what it's called. It's not an escape character. There's a terminology for it. Oh, oops. So you see, if you forget how a command works, you can always use command to bring up the manual. So it's actually grep option pattern then file. So this is wrong. What I actually want is what I'm looking for, and then the files I want to look within. So I'm gonna look for that. So I'm gonna do text.txt, grep. So there's no .com there. There's no way. What if I do? So okay. So maybe my star didn't work because grep already does that automatically. So you do grep and what you're looking for. So I pulled up everything that has .com in it. If let's say I want anything that has V in it, I actually type a V in there. So it actually looks within text.txt, like for whatever you're passing as the search results. If let's say I want to look for anything that starts with grep, it will just bring up anything that starts with grep, right? It doesn't bring up everything in the text document anymore. Wildcard, thank you. That's the word that's on the tip of my tongue that I could not remember. But yes, a wildcard. So your really common wildcards are question mark. Generally stands it's in place for one character, right? So if I do, let's say, find, and I want to find anything that is, let's say, a star dot t question mark t, it will find anything that is star. Essentially means anything before it. Could be anything. Could be a number, any number of characters. Is that wildcard stands for? It could be anything in front of it, and then dot, a question mark stands for it could be any character in that exact spot. So what it's saying is that if I, let's say, if I do a touch and I call it temp.tft, which is not a file extension, but that doesn't matter. If I run it with this, it will still find tft because it's satisfied that it could be anything before the period. It has to have a t, has to have a period, then a t, and then it could be anything here and another t. They're wildcards. Thank you so much. Chat, you're amazing. But yeah, and then a really nice, powerful ones we just went over is find, grep, less. These are really powerful as you get used to using a Unix shell. One of them that's also really good is called diff. Diff allows you to compare two files and see the differences within them, right? So this is actually a really common use case in a lot of things you can possibly be doing. So for that, we're gonna first man diff again because I haven't used diff in a while. So you just do diff and use options in the files you want to compare, and it compares the files line by line. So for example, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna do diff. I'm gonna do text.txt and temp.txt. It will then show me all the lines of differences between those two, right? So there's a lot of lines because one is empty. So let's say if I want to add something. So this is currently saying that this line difference is that there's empty here and it has something there. So I'm actually going to use gedit, which stands for graphical edit, which will not work if you don't have actual graphical interface in front of you. I'm going to use gedit. I'm going to edit temp.txt, and then I'm just going to add some random stuff in here. There we go. I'm going to save it. Oops. Save. Okay, now I'm going to open up diff. You can see it shows what the difference is. It's saying that the first line here had https replit.com, but the first line here has fwef, which does not match. And let's say if there is a match, so I'm actually going to do, I'm going to gedit this again. I'm going to add like, I think a V here or something. I'm going to back out of here. I'm going to close it, and I'm going to run diff again. You can see that it says that over here, so there's a lot of non-matches. That matches all this non-match. But then suddenly there is a match. There's a break here because there was a match because of the match, and then it showed everything else that didn't match. Okay. Let's see. Wild cards. Yes, wild cards. So again, star where asterisk means matches 0 or more of any character. Question mark matches 1 character of any kind. We've been over ls. Some really good flags again is -l. The -l flag shows 1 file per line. The -f flag, capital F, remember that, shows the file type it is. So let's say ls-f, it'll show you the file type it is. It could be directory, links, etc. -a shows all files, including hidden ones. -r is if you want to reverse the order as you are running ls. If I do ls-r, you can see that everything kind of flipped in reverse. You have ls-t, which then sorts by timestamp. ls-d, which lists the attribute of the directory itself rather than the content. So if I do ls-d, you can see that it only showed dot. So because there's no directory. And there's so many more. But again, to learn more about anything or trying to look for anything, you just man a command. We'll bring up the manual for that command, and Q will get you out of there. So we've done a lot of this manipulation. Is there any question? If not, we'll learn some other cool stuff. No questions. Everyone's an expert. I love streams when everyone's expert. So we're going to use our clear command again, which clears the actual terminal. Um, your up and a really quick thing is your up and down arrow key. Your up arrow key brings up the last command you were in, and as you keep going through this, it's called your history, your command history. It's stored in actually whatever shell you're using has a place to store these commands. You can use up arrow and down arrow to navigate between commands you've used recently, which is really helpful. So you don't have to keep typing the same thing over and over again. There's also something called autocomplete, which is tab. If I start typing CL, if I do tab, the only command that ends in EAR after CL is EAR. So if I tab, it'll autocomplete that, right? It also helps if, let's say I'm going to do cat, and let's say I want to cat the file in this directory. I just know it starts with a T. If I hit tab again, it'll show me every file that starts with T for me to pick from, right? So if I keep typing, if I want temp, if I hit tab again, it'll tell me that there's two type that goes temp.t, which one ends in ft, one's in xt. That's really useful. But yeah, the next really thing we can really go over is something called permissions. But before that, let's actually switch over to our Vim. So our first question is, if you haven't heard of Vim, Vim, in my opinion, is one of the more powerful tools you can use. Vim is essentially what it is. It's a highly configurable text editor that is built to enable really efficient text editing on a command line interface level. And it is actually an improved version of a really old editor called VI, which is installed and was distributed on basically every Unix system. So you might work in VI, but what VI is generally just a simpler Vim, or the predecessor of Vim. Now, so once you know how to use Vim, you can also use VI and kind of vice versa. There's other text editors out there that's command line, such as Nano, which some people like because it kind of tells you what you need to do stuff, right? So it tells you how to copy, paste, replace where it is, fine. But the issue with this is it's less customizable than such as Vim. And if you know how to use Vim, Vim actually becomes a super powerful tool. There's also one called Emacs. Is it with S? No, it's not installed. But Emacs is another example. But tonight we're going to be learning Vim. So installing Vim, you can also install it actually on your Windows computer too, but it kind of makes really no sense. This is when you really want to use Vim is when you're actually encountering a command line interface. So to install Vim, you just sudo whatever the system you're on, install, and just use Vim. It will install it. If I already installed it, so all this is going to do is nothing. It's going to be like, okay, it's already been installed. I'm going to clear that real quick. Then let's start going over some basics of Vim. So what is actually really cool is Vim has something called Vim tutorial. After you install Vim, if you're on Vim tutorial, it essentially welcomes you to a Vim tutorial, and it goes over how to use Vim with all its powerful tools and command. And if I just did this, you could have done this on your own time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually exit Vim, which so I will quit this tutorial. Which I meant to do escape. Escape, quit. So I quitted this tutorial, and we're gonna go over some Vim commands. So first things first, if I want to do is I'm going to first touch a file, which creates a file, right? So I'm gonna actually touch temp.txt, temp2.txt, right? So if I vim into temp2.txt, you can see there's nothing in here because I haven't wrote anything. For Vim, there's something called, there's 3 modes in Vim. The first thing is there's visual mode, which I'll show you in a second. There's insertion mode. The visual mode is for you to move around a document, look at things, copy, paste, and grab content out of that document. It allows you to highlight, it allows you to scroll through. You have insertion mode. Insertion mode allows you to actually edit the document. So this prevents you, let's say you're not in insertion mode, where you don't need to edit the document from actually changing the document, making it harder to do. You also have your command line mode, which is if I hit escape, you can see if I hit escape and then I hit colon, it brings up this command-like looking thing, and this is how you run each of the command in Vim, right? So if I do Q, what Q stands for is quit. And actually, I'm gonna pull something real quick. I have a list of content I wanted to go over in Vim. I'm gonna pull that up real quick. Make sure I don't miss anything. Do. Yeah, how's everyone's day going? Great. Okay, cool. So we're gonna go over some stuff, bring this back. Okay, great. So if I Vim. So if I actually just open Vim, this is just it opens just an empty document which you can then save later. So you hit I is you can see insert. This is called insertion mode, which allows you to edit the document. If you hit escape, which is also called normal mode, how to close Vim, you hit escape once, and then you hit colon, which then brings up your command line mode, which then you would do Q for quit. That would escape Vim. And if let's say they feel like you made an edit and you don't want to save it, all you're gonna do is use escape, escape colon, and then you do exclamation point, which is saying force quit. It doesn't matter what's going on. But we also have, I'm actually going to vim into our text one.txt, right? You can see all this, right? So I'm currently in normal mode, which I can kind of scroll through and read. Then you have, if you hit V, it's called visual mode, which allows you to highlight and copy content or navigate around, right? So I can also just like, I want to copy this, which then we'll learn how to use that, right? So this allows you to highlight specific things, allows you to do visual things within the actual code. If we hit escape again, we'll get back to our normal mode. So I becomes insertion mode, which allows you to actually edit the document. Escape once take you to normal mode, which then if you use colon, allows you to use commands. And then if you hit escape again, it takes you back and it takes you back to your normal mode. If you hit V, which gives you the visual mode, which allows you to select things on the screen, and gives you kind of like a mouse visual. Hit escape again, we'll go back to our normal mode. We'll hit escape, go to normal mode, we're going to use shift colon, and then we use quit, and it will say you can't quit because we made changes, and enter to type a command. So I'm going to do is, I'm going to say quit with an exclamation point, which is also known as force quit. So if you use Vim, it can open the actual default text editor. If you use, if you use Vim and you use the text file, you can open an existing document, which we kind of already showed. That's what we see. Oh, I already know the command line window. Wait, I did not mean to open that. So that is the command line window, which allows you to do more complex commands. So another thing we can do is vim-r. So let's say you are trying to read a file only and you want to be able to scroll through it, but you don't want to actually edit it. So like in case you accidentally enter insertion mode, you can use do -r, which stands for read only. So this will only, you see it says read only, so I actually can't enter insertion mode. I can't type things, which I just did. Wait, hold on. Did I mess that one up? Hold on, wait. This is read only. Why can't I enter insertion mode? Warning, changing a read-only file. I guess it just gives you a warning to see if you want to do it. So it's just helpful in case you don't want to change it. I thought you can't. You can, it just gives you a warning. So it helps mitigate changes that shouldn't be happening. Okay, cool. So another thing what we can do is, so let's say I have my Vim editor open, right? So this is just the actual editor. There's no file also open. If you want to open the file, you can do E, or the command E, which is you first have to be in normal mode, hit escape once. If you're in any other mode, which are in normal, we're going to use colon E, and then you give it the file name. So right, so you can hit tab. It tells you can scroll through the files you can possibly open. I'm going to actually open. I'm going to open temp2.txt. So now I'm actually open temp2. If I hit escape again, I'm going to use colon E. I can open any file anywhere, right? I can actually open files in other directories too. So if I do backslash. If I do one dot means your current directory, backslash means I'm still looking at the current directory. If I have to do dot backslash, link for a directory outside of that, right? Which you can enter any directory. So if I keep doing this, right, I can do that again, which is now saying, okay, look into my home directory. I can go out one more, which say, let's say I'm looking to bin. After bin, I can say, actually, I'm gonna look into users. Right? I can then continue this and say, okay, I'm gonna do users. Then I just open directory listing for users. I'm now going to escape that. So what we just learned is using the command colon E allows you to open a file after you already have a Vim window open. So I'm actually going to go back into our temp.txt, and Vim means here you can see that we have a bunch of stuff, right? So we learned that I opens insertion mode, and then you can type. There's actually another similar thing which is called O. O allows you to enter insertion mode, but it generates a space underneath. So it's not, instead of inserting the current line you're exactly at, which is your cursor, which you can see blinking, you can use O to actually move on to the next line. So let's say I'm just typing something and I want to get to the next line. And let's say I'm just reading. Okay, so I actually want to insert a line underneath. I can hit O. And it also inserts insertion mode, but what it does is enter insertion mode with editing. To save a file, we over quit is the command to quit a file. We went over Q !, which means quit, which is force quit. If you do W, which means write, which saves the file, right? So if I do just W by itself, it just saves the file. If I do WQ, it allows me to write the file and then quit the file. It's a pretty useful thing. So we went over some moving stuff. If I go into Vim, so this is how you navigate, right? You can use your arrow keys. And let's say I'm all the way down here, but I want to center this as my screen. If you use CZ, it centers the content you're looking at the center of your screen. So I'm all the way down here at FWE. If I do ZZ, it'll actually center the line you're currently at the center of the screen. It helps you navigate around. So if you're trying to read more or read less around something, you use the ZZ command. All you do is you hover over whatever you're trying to, the line you want to center, and then you just hit ZZ. It'll then go ahead and center that line. So let's say WE, if I hit ZZ, and then hold up WE in the middle of the screen. I'm gonna quit that real quick, and then actually, I'm gonna see, we're gonna take some questions. Does anyone have any questions about anything we've gone over so far? I'm gonna get it clear. We went over some Vim basics, we went over some Unix basics. Any questions just in general? It's a lot of basic level stuff. If you want to do more complex stuff, we'll hopefully bring some more into a bit more complex stuff outside of beginner's week. Since this is Global Hack Week January, our beginner's week, I hope someone learned something. Than that, so Vim is a very powerful tool existing in multiple, in most Unix machines, because they used to ship with them by default. Let's learn how to navigate around, create files, some really powerful Unix shell line commands, right? So such as grep, less, find, diff, W, navigate around. Does anyone have any questions about anything? No, we're questionless tonight. Anything in general? I'm gonna change this to AMA. Ask me anything in the chat. Great. So everyone's already a Vim master and already a Unix master. That's great to hear. I think that's the case. I might just hang around a bit and answer some questions, especially about really beginner basic stuff. But yeah, thank you for joining me and go over some basics of Vim and some Unix commands. Everyone, yes, cool. Everyone's great. Everyone's so good at this. But yeah, it could be a question about anything. If not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Global Hack Week. We're actually not done with Global Hack Week. After me, we're going to have Spyfall. That's going to happen at 2 a.m. East ST, as well as closing ceremony tomorrow at noon. So make sure to come to those. But with that, I do wish everyone a wonderful, amazing the rest of your night. Yeah. And make sure to get some rest and take a break. Wait. Why did someone edit this? 404, are you still here? Did you actually put music on for someone to play already? So the person I share banners with is legitimately just with Wei, which means did you get Wei to play your music? I don't even know 404 is still here, but I just noticed someone edited my banner and had it say music by 404 not found. That's pretty funny. But with that being said, I wish everyone a wonderful rest of your night, and make sure to come over to closing ceremony tomorrow. Have a happy rest of your Global Hack Week and enjoy Beginner's Week. Howdy, we're actually concluding. We went over a lot of Vim stuff. I'm actually sticking around for a question if there is any. We went over some Vim stuff as well as some Unix commands. But yeah, we're actually calling it night for tonight. But there's a lot of wonderful things happening at our next Global Hack Week, which I would love to see you there. And for anything, if you're interested, the stream is recorded. You can check the VOD for any of this information. To go over just any of the content we went over live. But with that being said, have a good night, everyone, and take care.